Hello, I'm Elizabeth, an obsessive backyard gardener who might be able to offer you a couple of tips.
And I'm Keith, a landscape consultant, and I'm also passionate about gardening.
The one thing we both have in common is muddy boots. Today, we are looking beyond the garden gate and out to the nature strip, that often overlooked patch of land between our fence and the road. Keith and I are going to talk about what's involved in planting out your nature strip, the benefits for your household and the wider community, what to consider before you start digging, and how to navigate council rules and responsibilities. Whether you're dreaming of fresh herbs at your doorstep or a sea of flowers for pollinators, this episode will help you decide what's possible and practical. So now I should know the answer to this first question because I work at the local council.
You should.
And I deal with this a lot. But for the benefit of the podcast, Keith, can you please confirm exactly what a nature strip is and who technically owns the nature strip?
Well, the nature strip is that verge that separates the road from either the footpath or the road from your property boundary.
Boundary fence.
And it's always owned by the local council.
That's right,
Yeah.
It is. Now, why do you think more people are considering their nature strip as a growing space, which seems to be becoming a bit of a trend?
Yeah, and it's a great thing that people are looking at it from that perspective rather than going out there with a mower every, couple of weeks and cutting it down and then watching it slowly die off in summer, going from a beautiful green in spring to a horrible burnt, suffering lawn in the middle of summer. People are looking at it from a totally different perspective, and I think that is just fantastic.
So there are a number of reasons for that. So it could be, obviously, aesthetics is one of them. Mm-hmm. Food security.
Yep.
Because, that's what we're all looking for.
Yes.
Biodiversity.
Yes.
All of those sort of things
Yes.
are things that can be considered when you're thinking about what you're going to do with your nature strip. So let's start with the idea of creating a vegetable garden on the nature strip. What vegetables and herbs are best suited to a nature strip setting, do you think?
I don't think there's any real limitations to what you can grow there. But I think you have to first of all, as we've said, approach the council first to make sure that there are no real problems. You need to consider what services might be underneath that nature strip. And the most important thing is ensuring that you have got safe ingress and egress, that is going in and going out of your property with sight lines for oncoming traffic.
What?
Well, it's called ingress and egress.
Explain those first.
That means that when you're driving in to your property, ingress and egress is going out. Yeah. You've got to make sure that you can see
visibility.
The visibility
so
side of things.
Is not impaired.
So you're not creating these blind spots. And if you do, well, you wouldn't be the first because councils do an awful lot of that anyway with nature strip planting and in streets and so forth where they put the wrong selection of plants in. So you lose those sight lines. So it's a very important thing to make sure, because if you think about it, if you block someone's view and they have an accident, well,
they'll be ringing the council.
They'll be ringing the council, and you'll be the one who'll be chased after,
abusing you.
Exactly. So you've got to look at that first.
So apart from that, what other factors need to be considered? Things like sun, soil, foot traffic,
yes, pets,
yes, all those sort of things.
All that sort of thing. We, as you mentioned in the intro, we had a follower who came back to us and said that she had actually gone out there and put her own veggie patch in that area, and she made it out of raised bed. So therefore, when you're creating a raised bed, you've got more control over the conditions of the soil that you're putting in there.
That's probably a good idea.
So that's one way of looking at it. Yeah. You really need to test the soil to see what it is you're working with, and a pH test would be one of the first things that you would do, and then look at the soil and say, well, what is it that I'm wanting to grow in this particular space, and what are those plants' requirements? So, for instance, if you were going to be doing an indigenous garden, you just go with what you've got, because it's going to be of a local, area. Yeah. But if it's going to be vegetables, then you really need to put as much goodness into that soil as you possibly can.
And you don't know what has been going on in that soil in the past, because as far as traffic pollution is not good for the soil.
No.
Any industrial activities that may have happened in the past we don't know about. So I think you're right about the raised garden. The raised beds idea is probably really the best idea.
Well, I think it's a great idea.
You're adding your own soil.
You're creating something from scratch, basically. So there's just so many opportunities when you look at it from a raised bed perspective.
But with that, you've got to be careful too with visibility. So
and I mean, raised beds per se should be around about the 450 mark, and if people want to know what 450 mil is above ground level, then whatever they're sitting on generally is 450 mil.
What we're sitting on now.
What we're sitting on now, these chairs, they're about 450 mil. So it's a great height to actually have as a raised bed because you can actually sit on it and do your work, planting and weeding and all this sort of stuff in there as well. So consider the heights. And if you've got worried about sight lines and so forth, then even if you had a raised bed of, say, 200 mil, that's still going to be sufficient to grow a lot of vegetables in it, for instance.
Get some good soil into. Yep. Okay, so now how can you make a veggie nature strip? Because veggie gardens can get a bit messy.
Yeah.
How can you make it look inviting rather than being messy or obstructive? How can we make it pretty?
Well, there's this then opens up a whole new method for you to select the plants that are going to really perform and look terrific. And you've got lots of opportunities there. I mean, there's so many different coloured lettuces, for instance, which you can grow just about all year round. So if you've got a raised bed and you put, say, different coloured lettuce around the outside, and then perhaps in the middle you think about, well, at the right time of the year, because you're not going to be able to net it. But for the winter months, you could put in brassicas. You've got some beautiful Romanesco broccoli, for instance. You've got cauliflowers that have got different coloured purple heads on those. Yep. You've got cabbages like the big red drumhead, which is such a spectacular looking vegetable as it is.
Yep.
And then you've got different kales that you can put in. You've got curly leaf kale. You've got Tuscan kale, which is that dark coloured one.
Yep.
So as long as you're going into forms that are the old heirloom types, you're unlimited to what you can actually create and look spectacular in your garden bed.
And how do we keep it safe? How do we keep the pets away? And how do we keep it? Well, people are going to do what people do.
Yeah,
but hopefully they won't ruin things. But it happens.
But that's another bit of engagement. If you start to build your nature strip, and you're talking to neighbours as they're coming past and all that, you can get buy-in from them. You can get them to sort of say to them, look, you're welcome to come and harvest whatever you like and pick bits and pieces and take it in for your dinner. You're getting buy-in from them. So they're going to be looking after that particular patch, making sure that no one is actually doing the wrong thing by them. And it's a great way to open up conversations with people in the neighbourhood.
Getting to know people, and it's almost a community garden.
It is. It does become a community garden.
And you might encourage your neighbours to do something similar, and you can start, the whole street could be filled with vegetable
even learning from what you're doing. I mean, the more people we can get engaged to growing things, and it's just such a healthy pastime,
I know.
Just brilliant.
Yeah,
and
in every way.
Yeah, conversations are just fabulous based on that.
Yeah. Why you said you can't net it? Why can't we net it? Because of visibility.
Well, you can net it, but you need to think outside the square a little bit. For instance, if you were going to net the plants to protect them from birds and from butterflies and these sorts of things, then be mindful of the sort of netting colour you choose. Because if you go for a white netting, it becomes a block. But if you go for a black netting, you can see through it.
Okay.
It doesn't attract the sunlight.
Okay.
So you've got these beautiful sight lines through it. So you can actually see what's growing on the inside. But when you put a white net over it, you've just created this block. Yeah. So you can net them. That's not a problem.
Get some of those little tunnel netting things, which can be a bit lower, and so you work something out. I think you could net it.
It's all doable. It's all workable. And the fact that we've had people that follow us and have gone out there and physically done this, and then come back to us and sort of tell us just how good it's been with their local community. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the other option that I mentioned in the intro was the possibility of planting a wildflower meadow on the nature strip. Yeah. What does a wildflower meadow look like in an urban or suburban context?
Look like a wildflower meadow that's just about anywhere. So what you need to do, what you need to do is select the right timing to do it. So if you're going to do a wildflower meadow, what I would suggest you do is you go out there and you kill the existing grass and kill it right off. Make sure it's totally dead. And if you can put a broad fork through it and break up the ground a little bit, that's terrific. And if you sow the seeds of a wildflower meadow, and there's lots of seed companies now, not just the Diggers Club, but there's the seed collection. They've got a wildflower mix.
A lot of them have them.
Yeah, they've all got these mixes, and it's just a matter of working out how many square metres you've got and go out there and put it down. And what you need to sort of consider is the timing, and the best timing for putting a wildflower meadow down in your lawn or in your old lawn area is in the autumn, because it's going to have a little bit of rain, hopefully, that'll come along, and that'll help germinate those seeds.
Warm soil.
Yep, it'll cool. It'll wet up the soil,
which is good.
But you've still got the warmth in the soil coming in before winter. And what will happen is each of those little seeds will actually germinate and produce a floret. And then during winter, it will just sit. But come springtime, those florets will take off and they'll produce all these beautiful masses of different types of flowers coming onto your actual lawn, where your lawn area was, your verge.
Yep.
And it looks absolutely spectacular.
I know, it'd be amazing. But the thing to take into consideration would be height, I suppose, because some things would be higher than the others. And again, you've got to worry about the visibility. So would there be a specific mix that you would think would be better than others?
No, I don't think so. I mean, most wildflowers won't get any more than about maybe 800 high.
Okay.
I did one for a client in his place, in his own garden bed, either side of the driveway, and they would have probably got to around about maybe 800 high, and that was about it. But they looked absolutely spectacular, and to see the children running through it, it was just absolutely gorgeous.
I know, and it benefits pollinators, birds. So it'll bring the birds, the bees, the butterflies, into the garden, into the nature strip, which is absolutely amazing and fantastic.
And you've got these
and for us,
the predatory insects that are going to be looking after the rest of your garden as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a wonderful thing to do. And when you stand back and you look at that nature strip, from what it was to what it can be, what it is,
what it becomes,
it is just so satisfying.
And there's not a lot of work, apart from killing off the grass, and really there's not a lot of work.
No, there's not a lot
throwing
of
some
work.
seed out and maybe keeping it moist.
And if you do it on that basis of sowing it down as a wildflower meadow, then what happens is that those plants will grow. You leave them to go to seed, and you just let them drop on the ground, and just let the whole process go all the way through. But look at that from a different perspective, rather than looking I've got all these dead flower heads. Look at it from another perspective. Look at how things grow and how things become.
Yep, and the structure. I mean, there's still aesthetically pleasing seeing those sort of things.
Absolutely.
Seeing trying to say the structure of the plants, and as they die down, they can actually be quite attractive.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And if I'm going to in a section of my garden where I had a couple of apricot trees that just didn't do it for me this year. They've now gone through the mulcher, and I'm going to be putting down paper daisies. So I've got a big pack from up in a little place not far from Warren, up in New South Wales. We went out to the farm and we did a little bit of an Instagram post on it. So we've got seeds from that, and we're going to put those down in autumn and see how they all come up.
And they dry beautifully.
They do.
They really dry beautifully. So there's that extra step with those as well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And you can bring all these flowers into a vase and stick them in the house as well.
Yeah.
It's just a great way of doing it.
Many benefits. Now, let's talk about the council for a minute, because we do have to consider the council, that your local council is important when it comes to deciding to do something on your nature strip. So you do have to make contact with the council, because there will be a number of regulations, possibly, because they're concerned obviously about accessibility, safety, functionality, all that sort of thing, depending on what services are under the ground. So you do need to make contact with the council. You can probably go onto their local website, their website, whoever your council is, and they will give you some information there. But you do need to make sure you check with your council.
The first time I heard about VERGE planting was actually from Costa. We met at an expo, and we got talking about it, and he turned his VERGE into a community garden.
Sydney, he did too.
And that was probably back in about 2007, 2009, I think, somewhere around about that particular period. And he got a lot of interaction and a lot of good energy from that. Did a few shows on it on ABC Gardening. But it's just a matter of going to the council and sort of saying, look, this is what I'd like to do, and I'd like to involve the community.
So it's a positive move.
What are the limitations on what I can do? And I'm sure they'll spell it out for you.
Yeah. And you do need to do that because there are people who have done this and not contacted their councils, and the council have come along and said you've got to take it out. So you do need to make sure you talk to the council first.
And then, of course, where we live down in the Ranelagh estate, we've got the Ranelagh heritage overlay on that, and we've got Ranelagh Residents Association.
You have to be careful down there. They're strict.
And they can be difficult. So check things out before you start going off and doing anything, because you don't want to be throwing good money after bad. That's all.
No. Look, there are so many benefits, though. I think it's a fantastic idea because if you can get, because we don't communicate with our neighbours as much as we used to. So there's such a huge benefit as well. So
it is.
I think it's a great idea. We should do it. What about doing it, Keith, at your place?
No, I've got enough work to do.
You love your vegetables. You imagine
exactly, but it's just I'm time poor.
Okay, yeah, we're all time poor. Okay, so for everybody out there who's interested, please do check it out. Do look at your council's website. Have a chat with Keith. He'll give you some further ideas. Nature strips might be small, but they hold huge potential, as we've just said, for growing food, supporting wildlife, cooling our streets and bringing people together.
Yeah.
Whether you choose rows of leafy greens or a sprawl of wildflowers, a thoughtfully planted nature strip can be both practical and attractive. So hopefully that's been of some interest to you. Go ahead, plant your nature strip out and have a lovely time gardening. Thank you for listening to Muddy Boots. For more information on today's podcast, please go to muddyboots.net.au, and happy gardening.